Had to get the day started right with a little bit of coffee. We're headed down to the beach here. We're gonna try out bullet time, get you some different scenery, just generally play around and have some fun with the camera, see what it's capable of, and we'll go from there. See you down at the beach. All right, so far using the Insta360, I gotta say it's gonna be a little bit tough to determine how the footage is gonna come out. It does have the mobile app. I had a little bit of issues pairing it this morning, but we're gonna go ahead and try to get some footage, see what it looks like later on. All right, so we got our first two shots. We're about to go head down to the skate park and get our third. We'll see you guys down there. All right, guys, so we got a few examples here of bullet time. We leave Venice Beach. We're leaving the skate park here. I'm gonna go back to the studio. We're gonna take a look at some of the footage, also review the editing software you get with the Insta360 One X, and we'll go from there. See ya. So I think that answers the question that you can definitely get a lot of fun and creative footage with the Insta360 One X. One of the biggest hurdles I found initially when I got the device was really the editing workflow. The Android app was crashing. I tried the desktop app, but that's in beta form. You really couldn't do anything but export files with it. So I was a little confused as to how to get really creative footage out of this 360 experience. And honestly, I kind of put the device aside. It collected a little bit of dust. And then finally I did more research. So let's go ahead and dive over to the computer real quick so that way we can see the different editing workflows you have. I'll see you over there. So I want to give you guys a quick overview of the workflow process. I'll start with the app and then we'll also jump on the computer, take a look at their desktop app, which is in beta, as well as a quick workflow in Final Cut Pro X. So starting with the app here, I'm gonna go ahead and open a video. Bullet time, you really don't get much options at all. You can trim it, you can change some color settings, you can edit the stitching, but nothing significant. You're really just gonna export any of the bullet time videos as is. So with a normal video, you do have the ability to completely look around at any point. What I'm doing is not changing the video right now, but we're simply just setting up what I want to view when I click play. You can zoom in a little bit, you can pinch out, but you don't have a ton of flexibility in framing with this. The other things we can do are long press on objects, so I could smart track myself. What that's going to do is frame by frame calculate, which does take a while again on the app, and follow me. I can also set pivot points. If we see multiple pivot points throughout a video, I can show you an example here. It's really changing where the camera is going to pan to and focus on. So at that point, you don't have much. This app is not great. If you have a long clip, like a 6-minute clip, you don't get a lot of settings in here that we can do. The first thing I have to do is go to edit mode. At this point, I'm going to trim it. This trimming process is not great, and you can only trim one clip, or one portion of a clip, I should say. So we select the seconds, I click save, and now that's trimmed down. I also have seen the app likes to crash a lot, sometimes when I'm working with larger clips, so that's something to be aware of as well. Once we have something we like, I'm going to go ahead and make a pivot point here, and one at the end. Let's look forward. Pivot point, we're going to show you what that does, so let me scroll back. Just click play, and you'll see it's going to pan over to that second pivot point. Let's say I like this. At this point, I'm going to go click share, album, save it locally. So it's going to save it to your photos. At that point, it's in the cloud. If you want it to be, you can also go ahead and just AirPlay or send it to your computer. All right. Insta's desktop app, I'm going to warn you, is not great. So we're doing a very quick overview of this. The only things you can really do, change your view or your perspective. So we're going to set this to asteroid. Again, not letting me do much. Here's what really doesn't matter. When I export, it's not actually going to do anything. Another error. It's not going to actually do anything to this clip anyway. It's just going to export it as a normal video. So there is a benefit here that I found, because you can hook up your camera to your computer through this app. You export them all to MP4s. So right now they're in some proprietary format. This app lets you export them as MP4 in that 5.7K. If you're doing that from your phone, it's only going to let you do 4K, just to be aware of as well. You export it in 5.7K. At that point now, let's go to Final Cut Pro. So you're seeing this is a time lapse we have. Let me show you what that looks like if you actually export it specifically from the app. So there are some benefits. It's going to give you nice smoothness, but still give me that zoomed out globe look. So the things I've found is you can't really recreate that, but you do have a lot more flexibility in Final Cut Pro if we're working with just these raw 360 files here. You're obviously not going to use it like this out of camera, but what we can do with this is by default, it's going to choose a field of view. So we can now change our field of view to a certain point. So I like this. We can pan the X any way we want. Choose our roll. So now we're upright. So there's a lot more flexibility here. I'm not going to go through the whole frame, but with keyframes, you can do a lot with this video. So let's go Tiny Planet. When we look at this, the other cool thing here is flexibility over the app. So from the app, this is how it's going to be zoomed every time. You can't change the amount of zoom. Within Final Cut, when I'm in Tiny Planet, you can see I can actually zoom about as much as I want. So I can go really far out, super far out, or a lot more in. And when I go in, the cool thing here, oops, let me flip us around, is I can now look forward. So the first video in this is actually that example. I start as Tiny Planet, and you can't do this through their app, just to be aware. That was something I did in Final Cut. So overall, I think Insta has some things to work on when it comes to editing and workflow. There are a few different ways to make it more usable depending on specifically what you need out of the footage. I wish there was a better way to stabilize it inside of Final Cut. If anyone knows how to do that, please let me know. So that's your overview of the Insta360 editing workflow. Let's go back to the overall review. Overall, it's a really fun device, especially once you figure out the editing workflow. And I think on top of that, they're going to make it a lot better with future updates to the app and desktop application as well. Given how small this device is, it's really easy to throw in your pocket, throw in your backpack, and take with you anywhere. One thing on the downside that I saw was the battery life. I got probably about 20 minutes of actual recording time with it. I was shooting in log, and I think that had some impact on the performance. As well, we were doing bullet time with high frame rate, so that also could have impacted it. However, something to be aware of, you're definitely gonna want a spare battery to bring along with you. The biggest things I wish it had were USB-C and then a better editing app. So again, I really hope they update the app in the future, specifically for Android in my use case, but also for iOS and the desktop. I think with Final Cut, they'll probably enhance it, or there'll be plugins that I don't even know about, which may already exist. So overall, I definitely give the Insta360 One X a big thumbs up. I'm gonna recommend it, especially if you're on the market for something compact. It's gonna give you a lot of creativity in a small form factor, really easy to stow and go. So I definitely recommend it. Thanks for joining me today, guys. As usual, it's always a pleasure having you here. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Lots more tech reviews, content, and vlogs coming throughout 2019. I'll see you next time.